Hello everyone. So welcome to Kundalini Rise Yoga here at Ditchflower's Healing Sanctuary. This will be every Friday at 9 a.m. Today it's not going to be directly themed like most of my yoga classes because this is one of our first classes. So as far as my talk and satsang in the beginning, it's going to be more directed towards what is Kundalini. So Kundalini, does anybody have any ideas of what they feel Kundalini is? Anybody?
Rootwork.
Rootwork. Excellent.
It is definitely energy that sits in the pelvic bowl, and at times it can rise through the chakras like a serpentine.
Yes, absolutely. So both of those are absolutely true. Like you said, Lord Lou, you said root work, that root chakra. We like to think of it like a coiled snake in Kundalini. Just yesterday, somebody, I was doing tarot and they noticed they're like, I read energies and it's almost like you move like a snake. Does a snake have any meaning to you? I was like, well, I'm a Kundalini yoga instructor, so it has a lot of meaning. And I'm also going to talk today a little bit about that as far as when we get into proper breathing posture. I use a snake analogy that you use with your spine to kind of keep proper breathing posture. And since I've started doing that, my meditations have been more intense. My breath work has been more on point, and it's a whole lot easier to sit longer. So that's something I'm going to go into a little bit later. But again, with Kundalini, like you were saying, it's that energy rising, right? And the Kundalini system, it's a little bit different than the standard Yoga Sutras. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras says that both of the opposite energies, they get really happy and they're in a bliss state when they're in opposites, which is not untrue, and I do follow the Yoga Sutras as a spiritual path. However, on the flip side, Kundalini is more about actively doing something. So what we're doing is we're actively engaging through the breath and through our movements. And when we piece those things together, we're able to shut the mind down. And when we do that, what Kundalini's idea is Shiva, which is represented as consciousness, and Shakti, which is represented like that root energy that we were talking about. We're forcing those to come together. And I use the term force loosely. We're just using effort. We shouldn't force anything in yoga. It's also a misconception a lot of times with Kundalini that with how intense it can be that we have to force things. So some people will do it too hard and etc., too intense. That's not what we're going for. Even though this might be more intense than say a yin yoga flow or your standard hatha flow, because we're timing some deep breath movements, it doesn't mean that you should ever be forcing anything, because this union that we're doing, the Shakti and the Shiva coming together, that's consciousness and energy. So we're bringing the energy centers of the root all the way up, and the consciousness, which comes from here and enters your crown chakra down, we're bringing those together. And if you think about it, they meet kind of in this solar plex area, which gives a lot of energy outward, right? So it is a lot with the chakra work that we do because we are merging those energies together with Kundalini. Now, like I said, on the flip side, with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, says they're in a both blissed out state. How can both of those things be true? The main thing that Kundalini helps, and the way that I teach yoga and what yoga is yoga is union of everything. In order to have union of everything, what do we have to do? We have to have a non-dualistic outlook, which means both of those schools of thought can be absolutely true at the same exact time. Just like God, source, however you define it, does not matter. But with that can be formless and it can be form at the same time. This is illogical, right? It can't be explained in logic, though we try with so many different words since the beginning of our language. We try to describe it, right? And that's that way we can raise energy for other people or trying to give them an idea. It's the reason why the best people that have the most success at describing it have like a poet's mindset, right? Because with poetry, we use words to describe the indescribable. So it's a tricky situation that we try and do because it will always be illogical. We won't be able to comprehend it with this mind. And that's what Kundalini yoga really does, is it really breaks down this part and taps it into the body systems and how we move our body, how we move our breath. Now we're controlling our nervous system, therefore we're controlling those emotions. And in turn, what are we doing? We're able to release those emotions. Emotions are a great tool in our life, but if we attach to it any more than just a tool, it then becomes a hindrance, right? This is where a lot of people get caught up in their spiritual process. They get caught up in that spiritual process because they start to release emotions, then they start getting attached to those emotions, and then you'll hear a whole lot, well, emotions are so important, you know, this is the human experience. Absolutely true. Emotions are important. They're kind of like signposts. They tell us, you know, things that are going on, things that we may need to work on. They're like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's up. But anytime we root into those too deeply, that's where we get stuck. Why do we get stuck? Because with an emotion, if it's a happy emotion and we want only happy emotions, well then anytime something unhappy happens, it will throw us off balance, right? If we want, and sometimes we do get stuck in this, if we want sad emotions, you know, that's where depression sits in, or fear emotions, anxiety sits in. Whenever we want that, then we can get unhappy or we can feel off balance when we're not in that depressed mode. And that's how people can kind of get addicted to that pain body. And we get addicted to it because our bodies have chemicals in them. And if you think of it, for lack of a better phrase coming to mind, similar to an alcoholic, for instance. When alcoholics are drinking for a long, long time, what happens is they'll start to get shakes when they don't have alcohol for a while, right? This is definitely something that I've seen in my life. My dad had this situation prior to his passing, but they'll get shakes first thing in the morning until they start taking a certain amount of alcohol. Their body is literally starting to shut down because it doesn't have a chemical that it's used to having, right? Same thing happens with our emotions. That's why we attach to them so deeply. And then it becomes logical to seek out that emotion. So a lot of times we're fighting the ego, right? And I'm going to teach a breathwork technique here today that's going to be, one of its names is the ego eradicator. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use that. The ego is there to make us survive. Why does it keep us addicted to these emotions? Because when you feel a certain emotion for so long, that's literally just a chemical coursing through your body for so long at a certain level. Most people are addicted to cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone, right? We get that from learning how to breathe from our parents. They're stressed out. They've been stressed out and this is we're talking hundreds and thousands of years. People have been breathing improperly and addicted to stress. And as we advance with civilization, we get more distractions, which creates more cortisol. So it's this whole chemical system we're trying to break free from. But if you think about it, it's not a bad thing necessarily when we're attached to our pain body, or it's not it's not something we have to fight. It's just something that we look at, we recognize, like any emotion, and go, okay, that's what's happening, let's change it, right? So Kundalini empowers you to do that. All yoga empowers you to do that. Kundalini does it at a little bit faster rate because we do combine the breath at a more accelerated pace, which allows less thought to happen. That's why some people say Kundalini is the express lane with yoga, because it will tie that in. So that's what we're going to be experiencing today. Very first thing, at the start of every Kundalini practice that you've probably ever seen or will ever see, is we do start with a chant. What this is I'll repeat it to you, I'll say it to you. If you feel inclined, you can join in. But it's Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Now, essentially what this is you can look at many different definitions for it, but it connects you to what they say, the golden lineage of gurus, right? Which sounds really, really fancy, and it sounds like, oh, I'm tapping into all of these folks. But more importantly, what you need to understand with yoga is its union, right? Because everything is just one. Now, granted, I won't be able to convince you of all of that in this first Kundalini class or one Kundalini class period, but it's something that has to be experienced after a long time of practicing. So when you think about everything as one, that Om Namo Guru Dev Namo, golden lineage of gurus, it's actually tapping you into yourself and all of that knowledge that you can pull from within, because you are human, you are a being. You are in touch with that consciousness. The reason why humans can either be the angels or the demons on earth is because we have an advanced nervous system that most animals, most plants do not. That's why we have the ability to do this. And that's the higher purpose that I like to bring with my yoga classes, to let everyone know that we have that ability. We can choose to be Source's hands at work. We can choose to be Source's mouthpiece to get that message across. The only thing is we have to get out of our own minds first, that ego, that I, that me, that myself, and work for the whole. And once we're doing that more and more, we'll find that our desires become less and less, and now it just becomes, this is what we do, this is what we do. Animals already do this, bugs, every other creature except for humans. Humans have that choice. Animals just work for the good of all, whether in their own way. Now, granted, they don't even know, they just do what they do. Every cat, every squirrel, every bug, it has a purpose, it has a place. We have the choice to either destroy or help. A lot of times, if we haven't done the work to clear out our nervous system and we don't do it daily, that's the key. Yes, this is a class, I do this once a week, but you should be doing yoga practice, mindfulness practice every day, because all of that resistance we talk about, all of those things, they build on daily. And I like to let everybody know that. Before we get into some of the warm-ups here and start getting into the practice, I like to let everybody know at the start of every single one of my yoga classes, if you're trying to look exactly like me or anybody else in the class, you're doing it wrong. This is a self-exploration. Yes, I'm going to give you some movements and you're going to see those, but as far as how your body does it, it might be different than mine. That's okay. It might be different than, John Smith over there or Sally over there. It might be different than how they move. That is fine. However you can do it. Same thing with Kundalini. I like to mention breath pace, right? Now, it is said, Yogi Bhajan says, if you keep up the pace will keep you up, right? However, don't ever worry if your breath, you're not able to do it as fast as me. On top of yoga, I'm a breathwork instructor. I teach one-on-ones all the time. I have my own practice, as well as, teaching group classes like this. So your pace may not be mine, and I will try and slow it down for the class intentionally. But when we're doing that, just know that however you're experiencing it, that's okay. Don't get into the mindset, because the mind is actually the hardest resistance to beat in yoga. So don't get into, well, I can't stretch that hard, or, oh, what's he doing now? I don't know. It doesn't matter. If at the end of class you were only able to do a couple things that I did, that's okay. That's a successful practice. If you were able to drop out of your mind completely and get into flow, that's a successful practice. If you stayed in your mind the entire time and were not able to relax in yet, that's okay. That's a successful practice. This yoga is more about learning acceptance, and neurons that fire together, wire together. So that's why the more that we practice in that way, yes, you'll learn the flows, you'll learn the postures, you'll learn the asanas, you'll learn the breathing exercises. And eventually, as with practice, you'll pick up speed, you'll pick up flexibility. I intentionally make my poses when I do them up here less flexible than I normally can do. I do my extreme flexibility at the house. That's my personal practice. And I do that to make everyone a little bit more comfortable with where they're at. Because I know, even though I say this, we still, some people, we want to be the best student in class, we want to be looked at good. These are still things of the ego, though. I want you to know that. The me's, the my's, the I's, the how I looked, it doesn't matter. What matters is your experience in just being. And that is the best thing that I can teach you. The techniques, how we get there, those are secondary. But ultimately, that experience of you just being in the moment, being in that beginner's mindset. A good way to shut off the brain is a japa. So if you notice that even while I'm talking, you notice, well, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, and I don't want to, then you can repeat a mantra in your head. I use Babaji a lot, or Om Namah Shivaya, Ram, 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 Ram. That was what the Maharaji used a lot of. All the saints have this mantra practice. So if you notice you're in your head at any moment, you can do that. Another thing with the Kundalini that I'm going to really stress is dropping into your breath. So while we're doing it, just if you notice yourself, your thoughts are wandering and you want to stop those, and you bring nice attention, we're not fighting those thoughts, but bring nice attention back to your breath. And we're going to have the pace going in a lot of these exercises, which is going to be pretty fast. So with that, that's going to kind of stop a lot of those thoughts automatically, all right? So we'll start first, Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. 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 Satnam. All right, everybody stand up. Excellent. This first exercise is going to be a breathing exercise that I created myself. We want our feet shoulder width apart, straight as you possibly can. My feet are normally crooked, but I straighten them out a little bit here. Gives you a solid base. We're going to bring our hands to heart center, and we're going to breathe in. As we come up, sun is warm, and then out, grass is green. And try and keep the breath the entire time you make the movement. In, sun is warm, out, grass is green. In, sun is warm, out, grass is green. All right, sun is warm, grass is green. And continue with the movements. In your head, repeat, sun is warm, grass is green. In, good, good, out. In, out. In, out. All right. Start by twisting your right arm back, nice and slow. In and out through the nose. And forward. All right, good. And left arm back. Breathing in and out through that nose as always, and forward just a little bit. All right. Go ahead, circle your right leg and the other way. Good. If you lose balance, no worries, no worries. And left leg, just a little bit. And the other way. Good, good. All right. Go ahead and shake it out just a little bit. We're going to be sitting down for a little bit, so I like to wiggle. Get me all shook up. All right, there we go. All right. Now let's go ahead and sit, and if you do have a cushion, you may want to be a little bit flatter to the ground. This is the point when I like to sit my cushion back. If you have a feminine structure, I recommend having your left leg on the outside. If you have a masculine structure, have your right leg on the outside. The reason for this is we have two different sides of our body. We have the Ida on the left side, and we have the Pingala on the right. Now the Ida side is the feminine side. This is the cooling side, and for the breath that we're getting ready to do, this is going to be the parasympathetic nervous system. On the right side, it controls your sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic over here on the left, this is the rest, relax mode, rest and digest. The sympathetic is the fight, flight, or freeze. So that's going to come into importance, like I said, with this first exercise we're going to be doing. It's similar to Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing, but this is actually going to be a Nadi cleansing that we're doing. Nadis in the yogic system are energetic points throughout the body. There's 112 in the human system, and there's a couple outside. But with these, if you are able to single-focusedly direct all of your attention to one of these areas, it can create the experience of Satori, it's called, an experience of, I don't like to use the word enlightenment because then that means that there's also dark, and then we're back into dualistic thinking. But in the Buddhist system, like nirvana, things like that, self-realization is what I use a lot. And if you're able to single-focusedly direct your attention to one of these nadis, and like I said, they're in all over your body. That's the reason why there's so many yoga postures, because it touches different areas. And if you could get fully in the zone, you will get that samadhi type experience. Now, every samadhi experience definitely isn't, a nirvana or a full self-realization. And a lot of people get tripped up without, a guru or somebody who's been there to be like, oh no, that's not quite it. Buddha went through numerous experiences like this. And every time he would kind of just be like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Why? Because he realized, if he attaches too deeply to that, oh, we're back in the same cycle again. It's dualistic. We're going back around. So what we're going to do, this is the pranayama mudra. So we'll want to take our right hand and we bring the index and the middle finger down. Doesn't matter if your fingers are like this or they're far apart. Doesn't matter. The big important fingers are this one and this one. And the reason why we do this is because the fingers do match up. We've got fire over here on the thumb, which, again, the Pingala side, right? This is the masculine side. This is hot. And actually just breathing through this nostril will warm your body up. On the flip side, we have ice, cold, the Ida, right? The feminine aspects. If you breathe just through this side, so say it's summertime and it's hot out, you can go like this right here, and it will actually cool your body system down. So fun facts. But what we're going to do, we're going to do nadi cleansing. So we're going to first close our right, and we're going to breathe in. And then we're going to come over, close the left nostril, and breathe out. And when we breathe out, we're breathing out all of our anger. And then we breathe in. We close the right. And now we are breathing out all of our compulsiveness. We want to keep our spine straight. In again through the left. Close. Out with all your anger. In. Close. Out with all of our compulsiveness. In through the left. Close. Out with all that anger. In. Close. Out. In. Close. Out. Forceful. In. Close. Out. In. Close. Out. In. Close. Out. All right, return to normal breathing. Should feel maybe a little lightheaded, a little calm down. I did not warn you ahead of time. That is why I have this up here. Sometimes you do have to clean out your nostrils during the process of some of these. So I want to talk a little bit about proper breathing before we get into this next one. Proper stance, proper position. Like I said, I like to teach the serpent analogy. So what I like to do, I like to get down kind of low and picture my back as a cobra. If you think like when you see the snake charmer and the cobra comes out of the basket, it comes like this and then it remains completely straight, right? So what I do, I get down low every time and I wiggle my back, and we're kind of stacking it. We're stacking it vertebrae by vertebrae, right? You'll have that little arch in the lumbars right there. That's good. And then we want to bring our chin forward at about a 45-degree angle. All right? And I like to picture the back of my head like a cobra's cowl, like that big part behind the cobra's head. And when you do that, it allows you to tip your head and everything kind of in a really good position. And then just like the cobra that's standing up, he's wiggling just a little bit. Don't be afraid to adjust during your movements. Don't be afraid to breathe with your entire body, which means you might move forward a little bit. And some of the movements we're going to do here in a little bit, they're going to require us to be moving. That's okay. A lot of people in yoga classes, they like to, again, they get in their heads, the perfect student, I gotta have a straight spine. Or meditations, group meditations, I love it. And they're breathing, but they're not moving, which means they're not letting their body flow. They're not letting it naturally move because they're still holding it tight. And we're talking even in monasteries, monks, etc., that it still gets in their head. So it doesn't matter where you're at, we can do this, right? So we wiggle, we get that spine straight. Now what I'm going to teach you first, this is a very popular exercise. Some of you may have done it before. This is going to be a version of Breath of Fire, also known as the ego eradicator. Dun, 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 makes it sound all intense, right? Now, the key with this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be exhaling from our nostril, right? So exhaling from the nostrils. The inhale will happen automatically. So we will naturally breathe in. We don't have to worry about that. What we're going to really be focused on, though, is on that exhale, our navel here, trying to make it come back towards our spine forcefully. With just standard breath work, things like that, where I teach this like a breath work tool. I don't necessarily have them do it as forcefully, but with Kundalini, we're trying to really raise that energy. So we want to push ourselves. Now again, don't hurt yourself. Don't force it. Just push it with enough intensity, with effort, right? But at the same time, we should be relaxed in everything we do in yoga, right? The whole point is to slowly build up so you are able to be in a relaxed state no matter what happens, outward or inward, we're able to stay in the same state. All right, so we're straight. We've got our cobra cowl. You can have your hands right here. Also, there is where you could keep them up and do this if you wish. That's kind of a more advanced. Right now, I would say for first class, we can keep our hands here. And breathe with me when you feel comfortable at your own pace. And again, we're making that navel try and touch the spine on our exhale through our nostrils, and the inhale will happen automatically. All right, join in when you are comfortable. And exhale completely and hold. Deep inhale. Breathe normally. And again, exhale. Exhale completely and hold. And inhale. And return to normal breathing. Excellent, excellent. All right, all right. Next thing we're going to do, we can stay in the same position. We're going to do something that's called the sufi grind. So when I come forward, I'm going to exhale. When we come back, we're going to inhale. And it's really good to grab your bottom foot here, that bottom ankle area. That will allow you to kind of rotate and not flip all the way backwards. I've done that before. Kind of sucks, especially when there's a wall behind you. All right, so let's start. Exhale. Inhale. And this really gets our spine moving. The reason why every asana was created was to increase spinal strength and flexibility. Yoga has been around for about, we can prove at least 12,000 years. When the first Shiva showed up on coins, they suspect about at least 15,000 years. However, the asanas have only been around a couple hundred. Try and make that breath audible. We do that by constricting the back of our throat. Slightly, it's called the Ujjayi breath. That engages the vagal nerve response, which is always fun to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system. And let's rotate the other way. Go at your own pace, what feels good to you. This also stimulates digestion. Like I said, really gets all of the spine moving there. All right, now we're going to rock back and forth, and we're going to inhale on the back and exhale on the forward. In. We're going to bring our hands up behind our head. Everybody's doing an excellent job. And this, we're going to incorporate satnam. Satnam means I am the truth as a simplified definition. It is similar to like the namaste, namaskaram. It is how most Kundalini yogis will greet and also say goodbye. It is very similar in that aspect, because as I am the truth, so is everything else, right? So it's not from an egotistical standpoint. And what we're going to do when we lean one way, that's a satnam. This is also a mantra you can do anytime you're breathing, just like I was talking about japa. In order to clear your thoughts, you can do satnam, satnam, satnam. Anytime that you want to really eliminate all of this thought process. Satnam, 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 satnam. Kind of take an inhale when you're in the middle. Satnam, 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 satnam. Try and pick up the pace a little. Satnam, 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 satnam. All right, go ahead and stretch out those arms a little bit, and arm circles back and forward. In and out. All right, now we're going to go to hands and knees position. So with this, we'll want our hands right underneath our shoulders. How I like to stack up my hands in yoga, I always like to spread my fingers as far apart as possible and then put them on the mat. When we do that, we get in touch with all four corners of our hands, which gives us a really solid base. We want to line our knees up directly with our hands. Again, gives us that great solid base. We're going to do a little bit of cat-cow. How we're going to do that, though, we're going to exhale like so, or excuse me, we're going to inhale on the out and exhale on the in. Really arch that back. Go ahead and go into child's pose for a moment. Return to normal breathing. Stretch that spine out. That lower lumbar, thoracic. Really stretch everything out. And then we're going to come up to downward dog. How we do that, our hands are in the same place. We raise our feet. Do not have to worry about having those heels all the way back. All right? So from here, we're going to hang out in this position just a little bit. Focus directly on the breath. This is going to be that silent portion. If you need a japa in your head to keep out those thoughts, satnam is perfect for this practice. And hang out there for us just a little bit, folks. Everybody's doing great, doing great. Let that head hang down. Your feet are still lined up with those hands. The hands, they were shoulder width apart. All right. And we're going to exhale and come into cobra. Inhale the downward dog. Exhale the cobra. Out with the mouth. In. And we're going to cannon breath out with the mouth. In through the nose. Cannon. In. In. Out. In. In. Cannon. In. 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 Cannon. In. Cannon. In. Cannon. All right. In. And we're in downward dog. And from here, bring your feet forward just a little bit. We're going to try and walk our hands until we're in a forward fold. So we're already down. Now with the forward fold, some people like to try and keep their knees as straight as possible. That's a calisthenic stretch. In yoga, it's all about the spine, right? So we want our knees bent just a little bit. Again, the feet should be still shoulder width apart. And we're just going to hang out here for a moment. Good, good, everyone. Focus on that breath. On the in, you can silently say sat. On the out, you can say nam in your head. Hang out here just for a moment, just for a moment. Let your arms completely be limp, your neck completely dangle. Really taking in all that energy we just worked up. Letting it bring out whatever it needs to bring out. It's all okay. Good emotions, bad emotions, they're all equal. They're just signposts to let us know where we're at. All right. With this, before you move, listen to my instruction. I'll let you know when to start moving. But we're going to come up. We're going to come up inch by inch, very slowly. We're going to stack our body up exactly how it should come up, how it wants to. And that's going to be on vertebrae by vertebrae, but very, very slowly. And when we get to the mid-body, we're going to let our arms come up with us until they're all the way above our head. And we're going to bring them into prayer position, Namaskara Mudra, above our head. But this is going to be very, very slow when we come up. So this is going to be a nice big inhale. All right, and begin your inhale, inch by inch, nice and slow. First that lower lumbar coming up, and our arms. And our arms all the way in Namaskaram, good. And exhale and bring it to heart center. Excellent. We're going to stay here in heart center for just a moment. Probably feel the energy coming back to your arms now. Let's focus directly in those thighs for a while. Might feel some heat warming up. It's all part of the process. All right, and we're going to turn on our mats. And we're going to have our feet wider than shoulder width apart, as wide as you feel comfortable. Good, good, good. I don't know why, but I like to call this exercise the YMCA. But what we're going to do, we're put our arms up here and inhale, and we'll come to the opposite leg on the exhale. Then we come up, inhale, stay with the same arm, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Up, down. Inhale, come up, bring our hands to Namaskaram. Let your right arm down. All right, now we're gonna do exactly the opposite. So we inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, and exhale. Try and touch the outside of the other foot if you can. Inhale, exhale. And bring them up to Namaskaram in the middle, and we're going to go directly down. We inhale first, and exhale down the middle. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Like you're chopping wood. We're eradicating that ego. This is good if you have any aggression. You can cut it all out. And just dangle. Let yourself hang there. A forward fold, legs spread. And release any built up energy that came through. Any anger you had, any anxiety, any stress, you just let that slide. It's not necessary. We just cut it out. All it'll do is distract us. Not that it's bad. It's just a signpost that lets us know, hey, we don't want to feel like that. That wasn't pleasant. All right. Hands to Namaskaram. Take a breath in. Bring them to heart center. And bring your legs together. Good. Go ahead and shake them out. And we're probably feeling a little bit of tension back behind the knees there. All right. And we're going to go ahead and sit down again. All right. Again, feminine, make sure you have your left on the outside. Masculine, right on the outside. This is something that a lot of times in yoga circles, especially sometimes people that are new, they get all caught up with how do I keep my legs. So I do want to mention that, being this is the first class. A lot of times I stack mine on top. It's kind of from the Babaji system. It gives a really good base. Full lotus, you can do that if you're flexible enough. Full lotus is like this. I can definitely do full lotus. However, a lot of times I don't, because then a lot of people are forcing themselves to try and do full lotus with me, whereas it's wherever your legs are comfortable. Sometimes people will do half lotus, where we've got one bottom foot up on the thigh. That's okay too. But like I said, a lot of times I will do this position right here because it just whatever gives you the most stable backing, right? So what we're going to do now is a chant, and this is very similar to kind of an upward calisthenic, like we were just moving. It's going to be Sat Kar Tar. Sat Kar Tar. All right, and that means doer of truth. So satnam, I am the light, I am truth. This is doer of truth, literally translated. And how we're going to move, again, we want to keep our spine straight. So we've got to do the cobra movement again. We get that cowl, so we have the 45-degree angle. A lot of times when we tell people to sit up straight, they have their head like this. Nope, we actually want the chin tucked in a little bit because that makes your spine completely in line, excuse me. So, on the very first one will be Sat, Kar, Tar. 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 Satnam. And sit for a moment, close your eyes. Hands to heart center. Feel the energy coursing. Feel all of the energy that's been released and let it completely go. As you remain there in that same position, eyes closed, I'm going to chime this singing bowl a couple times, and every time you hear it ring, let whatever worries, stresses, compulsions, your biggest things that came up for you today or that keep coming up in your life, let them go away with every chime. Alright, with the hands still folded, how we will end every single Kundalini is going to be with a long Sat and a short Nam, and we're going to do that 3 times. It will sound something like this. Satnam. All right, I encourage you to chant with me. 3, 2, 1. Satnam. 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 All right. Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.